Welcome back to our deep dive on IWC. Now, we've covered 2 eras of the brand previously, and if you haven't seen those videos, we'll link them in the description below. But this is the final chapter up until the present day of IWC. Looking at the Chris Grainger-Herr era of IWC from 2017, I believe, to present. And to me, this is a very important era for the brand. It's an expansion of what George Kern started, turning IWC from a very utilitarian offering into a company that's very much known in the mainstream. Yeah. And I'm very happy to be joined by Emily Marsden because, well, she is an avid IWC fan and enthusiast. And I thought it'd be a good place to start actually with something that you purchased in your own collection, which really to me sums up the modern IWC era. And that is the Pilot's Chronograph Mojave Desert Edition.
Indeed. Mr. Grainger has, like back in the day when I had sort of like 8 followers on Instagram, and it was completely private, and I bought an IWC, something that really blew me away about him was he followed me back because I kept tagging him. And commented. He was like, oh, amazing, well done. You know, like for me, he feels like the personal CEO, you know, is the CEO that he makes you feel really special as a collector, even though you're objectively like so far down the pecking order of collectors. He's just got a way of making you feel part of something bigger, which is really cool. But this watch here is, yeah, you're right. It's probably peak him. It's colored ceramic, the Mojave, like the way your face lit up then. That was cool. Yeah, it's the Mojave Pilot's Chronograph 41mm, actually closer to 42. It's exactly what I love about the brand. Material science, the Top Gun collaboration, and it has just like a beautiful color to it. It's not the original strap. I have that at home. I changed it, but it's got a color match strap. It's what Chris did, I think. He took the ceramics and then made, you know, the Oceana, the Mojave, the Woodland, you know, all of these really cool colors that I think are, if I had to describe his era, it would be a really big part of it. It is taking these colors and making them a bit wider and more appealing.
Like we said in part 2 of the video, you take a utilitarian pilot's watch and you need to make it attention grabbing. You need to make it appealing to a new generation. One way is to make it big with the big pilot. The other way, which I think is what Chris did very cleverly, is introduce ceramics, colored ceramics, to bring a whole new life to the pilot's watch.
For sure. And so if we take it back, 2017, Chris comes in. We've gone through Kern now. Kern has industrialized the brand. It's super well cemented. It's the $1 billion brand now, or at least there's $1 billion in revenues. So, you know, obviously valued more than that. What does he do, right? How do you make your stamp? How do you think about being CEO? Because the way I think of a CEO is you're a steward of a brand. You're a custodian for a period of time, which means you have to honor it, preserve it, but find a way of growing it. And quite often they're in conflict with each other. So what does he do? I think kind of out the gate, I think of him as someone who solidifies and maybe cleans up a little bit. We see less limited editions or limited release watches. We see less bullish partnership stuff. I think the partnerships now are super well cemented with Top Gun and AMG. But in not all that long of a time, I think 2018, we see the 150th anniversary, which for me is a sign of the great things to come, which is, in my opinion, Chris Grainger-Herr is a man that read the history books, did a deep dive into the museum and said, I'm going to bring that back. My legacy is an honouring of Blümlein, perhaps. And the 150th, the tribute to Paul Weber. We see the tribute to the 3705. We see, you know, all these nods back to the history of the brand quite quickly.
I know these deep dive collector guides are about talking of the watches and the references, but I did want to say something personally about Chris Grainger-Herr, which I respect. And I think in an industry which is very traditional and very conservative, I think he brings a youthful energy into IWC, someone who's willing to just talk to anyone, talk to the people. And I think it's smart because it means that you're on the ground, you're listening to collectors, you're understanding what people are looking for. And I do think that shines through in the watches that they've released.
Well, he's an architect, right? He's not a watchman. He's an architect. He got into IWC by designing the space around it. I'm not exactly sure how that went into CEO, but it makes sense when you look at him. Even, his suiting, his suit choices. When the Ingenieur came out, they were all sort of like a grey tone, and he'd match it. He's a very sartorially inclined man. He cycles like a crazy amount every morning. Apparently cycles with clients sometimes. I think quite regimented, very streamlined, very intentional. And he's must have the energy of an 18-year-old, because he's like, the breakfast all day at Watches and Wonders, out in the evening, then up at 4 a.m. Very, almost, I can't imagine. I think Kern is actually a big cyclist. But yeah, he's got that sort of regimented nature to him. He is deeply personable. I mentioned actually in one of the earlier videos, I asked him a bunch of questions after they won GPHG in 2023. One of the questions I asked him, he was incredible at, was like, what's your legacy? I have an opinion on what I think it's looking like. What is it? And my view was he has re-established IWC as a deeply technical watchmaker. What is the Eternal Calendar? It's the most perpetual of perpetual calendars. So he's got this beautiful ability to consolidate, be personal, but also bring back what IWC was about in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah, I think that's a great place to focus on as one of his biggest achievements, the Eternal Calendar. So in part 1 of this series, we talked about the Grand Complication, which we have on the table here, and also a successor, which was known as the most complicated watch in the world at the time. And to me, the Eternal Calendar, like what you alluded to, it's a throwback to the past. It's saying IWC is a technical watchmaker. Look what we're capable of doing.
Yes.
And the Eternal Calendar, I believe, is 45 million years on the moon phase. Yeah. And did you say 2,499 before it needs adjustment on the calendar? Yeah. So just like incredibly technical. And I also think aesthetically, it's a great looking watch too.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Just for context there, on the perpetual, you have to know when it's a leap decade, like a leap century or something. So like 2100, 2002 and before, you'd have to adjust it. Here, you actually don't need to adjust the thing. It's just ridiculous. I don't even know how many generations of family I'd have to think about to be 2,499. I can't even conceptualize that. But you're right, the thing is great looking. It wears really well on the wrist. It's platinum, as you'd expect. It's got a tiny little cutout on the dial, which basically you can see this tiny gear, and that is the gear that moves like once, I can't remember how many times now, but basically you'll only see it move every stupid amount of years. That's how, the minutiae of it. And they've got a cutout just to show that. And I think that to me is, we're kind of working backwards here, but it is what I feel Chris has been working up towards. Because to give some context, IWC I just don't think had that watchmaking ability or facilities in the preceding years. It wasn't really about that. You didn't really see anything close to it. And as I understand it, and hopefully I'm not corrected, but I stand to be corrected, is Chris from 2017 to 2023 had to assemble that division, brand new, it's got its own building, and revitalize high horology at IWC. And then it went on. IWC has never won GPHG until then. Never.
That's amazing. That's an amazing achievement. And I also think that, when you move on from the Eternal Calendar, there's so many other achievements that he's had, and there's so many things that I think about. But another one, which is huge to me, is the bringing back the Ingenieur.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, fine.
Because, I guess, Girogenta, everyone's been talking about Girogenta this, Girogenta that. It's a big part of the watch world, and I get that. It's important to talk about his legacy as a watch designer. But the Ingenieur sort of came along. It got manipulated during the Kern era. It sort of died out. Then they brought back another Ingenieur, which reflected the original Ingenieur design from when it was first released. And then I think it was just completely discontinued for a period of time.
Correct.
Chris took the Ingenieur and really took it back to that Girogenta essence and remade it in the most faithful way.
I think it was described as an honourable and sort of pure tribute to and reinterpretation of the Ingenieur. They listened to the fan base, they got a lot of feedback, and they really did go as close back to an homage, because I don't like homage watches. I like watches that take the essence of something and modernise it. It's sort of like great films that take, old books. You can change the storyline, but you have to keep the essence of the thing. So that's what I think Chris nailed. Whether it's going to be a hero for the brand, I'm not sure yet. But I love the titanium, for example. It's a brilliant delivery of material science, IWC's experience with titanium, and a really interesting watch. Beautiful profile as well. Great bracelet, and a great dial.
And they fixed the bezel alignment, which people who have obsessive compulsive disorder will found that very difficult in the original one.
For sure.
But it's hard to say, actually, whether the Ingenieur will be considered a success or not, because I think it's really curious that so many watches that have been discontinued in the past, collectors scream out for, bring it back, bring it back. A company does it, and it doesn't always translate. And I do question that a little bit with the Ingenieur. I'm like, has it been a success? Do people consider it to be a success?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, I'd love to hear people's opinions because it was very divided. I remember at the time of it coming out, people were scrambling for the titanium, myself included. I couldn't get it. It took me 12 months to get it. I was out in Schaffhausen begging, and they were just like, "There's none yet." They apparently it was quite hard to work with. Makes sense. Grade 5 titanium. I think it has solid following. I know a lot of people with them. I know a lot of people who even are brand new to the brand that have bought them. So I don't think it's fair to say it's not a success, but I think that it will... I'd like to see what they do next with it, right? We saw them put a perpetual in it last year.
Yes.
They brought out the really cool smaller versions, and I don't traditionally like... I think it's 35 mil in the rose gold with the white dial.
I really like that, yeah.
So cool. Yeah. I saw the CEO of Studio Underdog at an event wearing one. I saw him at Watches and Wonders, and he was toying with it, and he bought it. And he's a design guy, right? Brawn. He is a pure design guy. So I think that's a real success.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the 35, interestingly, is the most appealing version of it.
Yeah.
Even though they made a bigger version in ceramic, black ceramic as well.
Yeah, that seems to have done quite well. So I aesthetically think that's really cool. That's Chris's baby, as I understand it. Then again, really hard to work with. But it looks sharp. I think it's 42. But again, just the nature of black and ceramic, it doesn't look egregious on the wrist.
Yeah.
But which is a really good point, which I'd like to segue into, whether you agree or not, I don't know. Chris's legacy is ceramics and ceratanium, in fact.
Yes.
And I guess ceratanium was Kern. He invented it, or his team invented it. But Chris has really understood that beautiful sort of synergy between material science and commercialization. He's made quite a restrained amount of colours, and they don't feel like, oh, every year there's a new one. They've stopped now, pretty much. But the colours are really nice. The Pantone, colour matched, the strap matches. That's not easy to do that. You're baking these watches as well, right? They change colour. The rejection rate on ceramic is so high. That's why they're typically 30% more expensive, because you're just constantly wasting product. I think that's Chris, I think, will now be known as the guy that brought ceramic into the mainstream. And you think IWC, if you want a ceramic watch, if you go to IWC, in my opinion.
Yeah, they are the masters of ceramics.
Certainly in that price range.
Yes, and coloured ceramics is such a defining feature of modern IWC.
Yeah.
And I think Chris and the team at IWC have done a really great job on that.
Yeah.
Just the colours they chose, the way that they've brought some vibrancy and life into a pilot's watch like that, modernised it.
Yeah. But in a curated way. It's very Chris, architectural, sculptural. There's a refinement to it that I think is very him. When you see Ed Sheeran at the moment wearing a lot of, one-of-ones. He's got a pink pilot or something. That's very him, right? But I couldn't imagine Chris releasing that as a sort of mainstream watch.
Yeah, who knows? I do think that he's very good, as I said at the top of the video, at listening to collective feedback. And I know a lot of people were saying, why don't you bring out coloured ceramics in the Mark series?
Yeah,
which he then did. We got there's a Mojave version of the regular pilot.
Mojave, there's Lake Tahoe.
Lake Tahoe as well.
And they just did the George Russell collaboration, the AMG. Speaking of, collaboration, he's kept that going in a nice way. We should talk about the movie as well. The AMG collab is a time only one. Typically they don't do that. It's usually the chronograph. The Miramar, that was so good.
Yes.
Okay, Miramar was great. I actually also like the steel version. But yeah, he's really got something going there.
Yeah, indeed. Just from a commercial perspective, I think he has done a great job at IWC, continuing the AMG collaboration.
Yes.
That's been really well executed. And also the fact that he was prepared to take the brand on the road and didn't confine IWC to a sort of stuffy boutique. It's like, we're going to take IWC on the road, bring it to people who might not have had access to a boutique otherwise, and just speak to everybody about the brand.
Container tour, the shipping container. Anyone, public service announcement, if you want to get into IWC, don't go anywhere else apart from to go to a boutique. Go to IWC Bond Street if you're in London, and go immerse yourself in the experience. You will understand the brand. I get a lot of messages on Instagram with, should I buy this? Should I buy that? Why would I buy IWC retail when I could, spend $2-3 grand less? My answer is always the same. There is no brand like IWC when it comes to looking after their customers. And that doesn't mean you get a free hat. It means they care. Like, genuinely, you'll get a birthday card. And this is people that buy one watch. I'm not just talking about the, super into it people. If you show that you're really excited, that's what I think they care about. And look, maybe I'm being too naive, and because it's still a brand and they're commercial, but they are sublime at customer retention for a reason. So I would strongly encourage you, please do go try and experience the brand there, and tell me if you don't like IWC. I'd be shocked if you didn't respect it after that.
Yeah, for sure. And I do think it's important to say that even though they've won your custom and you bought from them, we are completely neutral in our assessment of IWC, right? We're not affiliated with any brand, and all of our opinions are completely honest. And I think sometimes it's easy when you're being complimentary about a brand for people just assume that like there's some kind of ulterior motive, but it's not. It's 100% honest. Like I do think Chris has done a great job with IWC in the modern era, and just I really respect when brands are open to talking to the general public, not being stuffy, being approachable, being inclusive, because at the end of the day, it's a niche hobby, and as a brand, you should be willing to talk to everyone. It doesn't matter who you are, right? And I do get that feeling from IWC.
Yeah, they're really good, aren't they? The sort of humanized feel to the brand, because it's super luxury. They're talking $6 grand entry, average price probably somewhere maybe 15 to 20. These are a big chunk of change.
Yeah.
This is not insignificant money. It's more than an entry level Rolex in a lot of ways. Is like the you think about what Rolex gives you and what IWC gives you. They're very different profiles. And IWC, it has a lot of watches in it that like I said, can be more expensive. I'm sure people have views and opinions on what I said there, but my point I'm trying to get across is they're different value offerings. They're different. What you sort of get out of it on your wrist is slightly different. And both are credible. Both are interesting. Another thing Chris has done, which because I do kind of heavily associate him with ceramics and the Eternal. But another thing he did do is revitalize the Portugieser line in, I think, 2024. No, 23. It's the same year as the Eternal calendar. We got these white gold, Rise and Blue, what's the other one called? Sand something. They're objectively good-looking things.
Yes, I think he did a good job with Portugieser, because it was like led with the Eternal calendar, but then also brought a range of other references that are just pretty. They're just good-looking pieces, and the Horizon Blue dial is a great example of that. It's such a nice-looking piece.
It really is, isn't it? I'm not in the market, sadly, for like a 50k IWC, but if I was, I told them at the time, I love that watch. It's beautiful. If you get it on the wrist, it's so nice. But again, I think that speaks to Chris. I just really think he's a refined guy and has refined taste.
Yep.
And that feeds through into what the company's doing. There's nothing particularly splashy about him. There's nothing. I don't think IWC is quite splashy at the moment. I think it's utilitarian.
I agree. I also want to take the opportunity to openly make a request to IWC, just in case someone's listening. I want to see the Horizon Blue dial on steel.
Yeah.
In the 40 mil Portugieser. Yeah. And I also want to see the Portugieser become a daily driver, go anywhere, do anything watch by upgrading the water resistance to 100 meters with a screw down crown.
That'd be cool.
Therefore it becomes a watch you can wear in any situation. That's my request.
Can't argue with that. I almost do think, why are most watches not?
I know.
Do you know what I mean? Like, unless you're wearing something super niche or minute repeater or something, or somebody just made a waterproof minute repeater, it's obviously a thing. You just should just be waterproofing to 100 meters.
Especially a watch like that, right? It's time only. Yeah. It's sort of marketed as a watch that you can wear every day, right? But it just needs that extra level of waterproofness. But I also wanted to say, if you're someone who's looking to collect and you just want to buy a new generation IWC, the Mark 20. The Mark 20 is such a great piece.
Yeah.
It's the essence of IWC. And I think the Mark 16 to 17 and 18 were all a little bit awkward. The 16 was missing some numerals. The 17 had this sort of a cockpit gauge style date window, which is a bit messy. And then the 18 had a slightly misplaced date wheel. And I think everyone was anticipating the 20, and it came in as like perfect in every way.
It's a great watch, isn't
It's a great piece.
I think they do. There's the ceramic, there's one in titanium as well. I think it has a Top Gun one. But I agree. It's quintessential IWC, isn't it?
Yeah.
And great. It's a great $5.5 watch. It delivers on all fronts.
Well, I was just saying, like, I wanted that go anywhere, do anything proposition from the Portugieser, but the Mark 20 is that. It's water resistant, it's versatile, it's timeless. To me, if someone asked me what should I buy around that price,
It's got to be.
yeah, that I can just wear every day in any situation that I'm never going to get bored of, that's always going to look relevant, I would say, yeah, buy an IWC Mark 20.
I was at a wedding and a guy was wearing one, and I was like, really cool watch. He was like, oh my God, no one ever knows what this is. I know I'm not smart enough to be a lawyer, but everyone here was like super successful lawyers. And then just me, so I don't know what to talk to you guys about. So I mentioned the watch. And he loved it. I just wanted to be different. Everyone else wears X, Y, and Z. I wanted this thing. And I think he, liked the fact they flew under the radar. It was super cool once you got into it. That's maybe IWC. They don't need to be in your face kind of marketing anymore. They don't need to be even controversial. They just have a really solid space, which is really well built watches that have really cool technical merit for the most part. Obviously not all of them. Some are just super simple steel and have like a strong sense of identity and history.
Quickly, what are you going to expect to see from IWC at Watches and
I
Wonders?
should have prepared for that question, and I haven't. Do you know what? This is the first year in a couple of years I've truly got no clue. Normally I'll pester someone or whatever, and I'll try and get something. But I actually genuinely don't know. What would I like to see? I'd like to see... Okay, I'd actually love to see the Aqua Timer get some love. Just what can you do with that watch? I love, the old Cousteau diver... maybe John Mayer has a big role in that as well, in terms of glamorizing it or popularizing it. But I just think there's so much space with that potential niche for them that they don't really own right now.
Yes.
It's not necessary for the brand to own that niche, but I'd love for IWC to prove what they could do take those technical chops and let's put it like the deep one. Go back into Blümlein. What can you do like that that's got the little pump or
Yes.
Do something for the sake of innovation in that sphere. I'd love that.
I'm glad you said that, because I was going to say exactly the same thing. And the point I wanted to make was, in all of the discussions we've had, we barely mentioned IWC dive watches, right? Yeah. They haven't changed, or they haven't brought in a brand new dive watch line or version of the Aqua Timer since 2014.
Wow,
it's over 10 years. And I think Chris has played it safe with releases in recent years. He's leaned into the Pilot, leaned into the Portugieser, the models that he thinks are going to be commercially successful.
You went out on a limb with the Ingenieur.
He did, but I think that was based on collectors' feedback and saying, I want to see it.
Yeah.
Whereas no one's saying, where's the Aqua Timer? And I would love to see him lean into that and release new Aqua Timers. It's time. And like you said, the Cousteau references, go into the back catalogs. There's some cool old IWC dive watches that could come alive again.
Yeah, I just constantly find myself going back to it when I'm collecting IWCs. Like, is there a link back to the 80s? And if 80s, 90s, and if there's not, or even earlier.
Yep.
And if there's not, I almost see that as the history. It's like everything up to 2000, pretty much, is the OG IWC, which is obviously like I think it was 1838 or something. The brand, 1836, the brand was established. It's quite a long time. But anything that links back to that, or links back to the sort of like rugged war era, I'm massively into.
Guys, tell us what you think. Is there anything from IWC you want to see this year at Watches and Wonders, or just in general? We'd love to see the feedback and reply in the comments. But yeah, look, that's been a pretty substantial deep dive. 3 parts, 3 CEOs, 3 generations of IWCs. All of those CEOs bringing a different angle to the brand. But to me, IWC feels healthy in 2026. I'm looking forward to seeing what they come up with next. Emily, thanks so much for joining.
It's been a pleasure.
That was a big chat, but one I thoroughly enjoyed.
This is my dream. This is my go-to brand. This is. I've read every book and I've pestered everyone that will talk to me about it. And look, Chris, if we had to summarize, Chris is the perfect mixture of the two before, but in his own way. I think he's read the books, he's gone back to the archives, and I do think we're going to look back at Chris's era in the way we look back at Blümlein or Kern, and easily be able to say, and I might eat my words here, Chris Grainger-Herr brought high horology back to IWC. What a legacy. What a legacy. I'm excited to see what he does next.
Good place to end. Guys, thanks so much for watching, and let us know if there's any other brands that you want us to do a deep dive into, and we'll get stuck in. It could be another multi-part series on another brand. Who knows?
And who's your favorite CEO and why? We can do that off camera.
Sounds good. Guys, thanks for tuning in.
Bye.